Alrighty, so it's 7 o'clock on Monday, December 16th, 2019, and I'll call the meeting to order, and the first thing we'll do is stand for a moment of silence. Is there any declaration of interest or general nature thereof? I just have one, and that is in regards to zoning bylaw amendment Z13 2019, and that's for Patrick and Stephanie Sanders at 5333 Calvert Drive, and that's my sister, so there's no conflict on that, and I'll have Secretary Hendricks step in for that portion of the meeting. If there's no more, we'll go into the minutes of the previous meeting, which is December 2nd, 2019. So mover and seconder for those. Councillor McKinnon and Councillor Brody. Is there any errors or omissions? All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. So we have a couple items for the delegations and timed events. So at 7:05 we have Jim Moyer here, representative for 27987 Kerwood Road, and that's in regards to a bylaw enforcement matter. And then at 7:10 we have our public meetings for several, just two zoning bylaw amendments, and that's Z12 2019 and Z13. And then we have the special policy area review that Aaron will present to us. And then at 7:40 we have Fred Cahill and Pam McLean, which will be talking, which is in regards to 25700 Kerwood Road. So we'll go into the correspondence. The first section is the upcoming conferences, seminars, and meetings. So our next regular meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, January 28th, 2020, so a ways away from now, followed by February 3rd and February 18th. The Roma conference is coming up on January 19th to 21st, and then the OGA conference is on February 23rd to 26th. Our recommended reading, so item number 1 is from AMO, and it's an update from November 29th, 2019. Item 2 is from Blue Water Recycling, and it's their highlights from November. Item number 3 is also from Blue Water, and it's their Christmas holiday schedule. And since we do have a lot of people in the audience here, I'll just pull that up just to make sure that everyone knows our dates. So our pickup date is the Wednesday, so Christmas and New Year's falls on the 20th, that Wednesday. So the 25th pickup will now be on the 28th, and the 1st will be on the 4th. So put it out on Christmas or New Year's, it won't be picked up, so put it out on the 28th and the 4th. Item number 4 is from the Four Counties Health Services, and it's their fall 2019 newsletter. Item number 5 is from OPP, and it's the Municipal Policing Bureau news release, December 2019. Item number 6 is from OMAFRA, and it's a notification of the NASM plan approval. Yep, Councillor McKinnon.
They have that as concession 7 a lot 1112 Eckford, so I wondered why they were notifying us. They said in our municipality, so has been approved in your municipality, and then it's
that's the former geographical township, and then it's still a reference that used through way back, yes. Oh. So the rural numbers are correct, and they're actually properties in our municipality. The geographical township is what they're referring to.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on that one? Item number 7 is from St. Clair Regional Conservation Authority, and it's their 2019 November meeting highlights. And then item number 8 is from the Asala Bayfield Conservation Authority, and that's their December 19th, 2019 agenda for their Board of Directors, their Board of Directors minutes from November 14th, and then their General Manager's report. Is there any questions on any of those correspondence? Need a motion, I'm find it here, to file correspondence items CC1 to CC8. Deputy Mayor Hendricks and Councillor McKinnon. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Okay, so we move into our delegation. So we have 7:05. It's Jim Moyer. Is he? Yeah, if you could come forward to the seat in front of us. Yeah, one of those ones. Good. Welcome. And our clerk, she has a report later on in the meeting in regards to the bylaw enforcement, and I think council will all have an opportunity to read that over, so you can go ahead. Or however, I don't know exactly what you told them. So.
He's here because he's wanting to require an extension
Okay.
to the tidy yard bylaw, bylaw 40 of 2019 that council approved earlier this year. If you refer to my staff report, the timeline of events is there. And when we sent the third notice to the property owner, that was when we received communication from the property owner. So he would like to require an extension, so he's here to address council on that.
Okay.
We know what's now. Yeah, I guess we're looking for time. We never received the other ones, but I had some other health issues and dialysis. So, like I said, we never received the previous ones. I was on house for the third one. He came, he handed it to me. That's when I received it. He said there's other ones registered mail. We never received them. That was each their own though. Since then, we have a 20-foot dumpster there. It's leaving Wednesday. It's another empty one's coming. We've moved 7 cars, I think, is that now, an old boat, a couple toppers. Like I said, 6 or 7 cars. And as some other cars, we have a list of ones that are going to be Wednesday. They're going to be all plated. They're all insured right now. They're called electrical insurance. They've all been insured for since we own the property. Other ones will be stickered. The other ones that we were getting rid of will be gone. Property will be tidied up. So I guess we're just looking for time for it. So
Okay. And how much time are you looking for?
I guess a month or 2. We've already done, like I said, last half a week to a week, we've already accomplished quite a bit, I would say. All by the tree, fence, all that's been gone. Like I said, a bunch of cars have been moved already.
Okay.
I don't
Councillor
have a
Newman?
problem with extending it for 2 months, if that's enough time.
Should be a problem.
I got no problem with that.
Okay, so 2 months as of, what was it, the day that they actually came?
February what?
Well, I just do it at the end of February.
Yeah.
I'd say we can.
February 29th.
That works for
It's a
me.
leap year? Did not realize
Yes.
that. Sorry.
Yes.
That's a Saturday. So should we do the 28th then, so it's a Friday?
It does not matter, whichever council prefers. We'd have to go and do a follow-up inspection anyway, so.
Okay, so the 29th would work.
So we can do a follow-up inspection on March 2nd. That's page 5. So we'll leave this one here.
Okay, so that sounds good with you then?
Sounds good, yes.
February, the 29th then, so council, we're looking for a motion then to resolve that council approve the request of extension from Jim Moyer, representative of property owner 27987 Kerwood Road with compliance date of February 29th, 2020 in order to comply with bylaw number 40 of 2019 being the tidy yard bylaw, and the council approve staff discretionary judgment on the extension of the date, weather conditions only if necessary. That's right.
First
Okay.
on the
Moved by Councillor McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Brody. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. All right. And I hope not to have you come back here after that date. Okay? Just jump right into these.
0 for 705.
Okay, so next is our 7:10, our public meetings for the zoning bylaw amendments. So before we have the motion to open the public hearings, set the state of the following. The purpose of the following public hearings for Adelaide Metcalfe Council is to give the members of council as well as the general public an opportunity to hear all interested persons with respect to the applications before council this evening. The public is advised that comments expressed and written material presented are a matter of public record available for full disclosure. If a person or public body files an appeal decision made this evening to the local planning appeal tribunal without having made a written submission to council, the tribunal may dismiss the appeal. If you wish to be notified of the decision, please submit a written request to the township, and a sign-in sheet has been provided for your convenience in the table in front of us. So I do need a motion from council to resolve the public meeting, or that the public meeting to hear zoning bylaw amendment application Z12 2019 and Z13 2019 be opened at 7:12. Councilor Brody and Deputy Mayor Hendricks, all those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. Okay, and we have Angela Jansen here. Excellent. You want to come forward? And you've received the report from Aaron.
Yes, I have.
Excellent. Aaron, would you like to go through the report?
Mayor Smith. So the purpose of this amendment is to temporarily amend the zoning of the subject lands from general agriculture to a temporary use provision. So it'll remain the agricultural zone. We're just simply adding the holding for the temporary use provision on the end of it. And this is done to facilitate the construction of a second dwelling unit within an existing detached accessory structure. The temporary zoning will be in effect for 3 years, at which time the lands will return to the underlying general agriculture zone. The applicant has indicated the desire to create an additional dwelling unit in the existing detached accessory structure for her children to live in. Upon discussion with planning staff, it was determined that this temporary use would be the most appropriate for the situation, as second dwelling units are permitted under provincial rules, but have not yet been reflected in the local planning documents that we have. So the subject lot is designated agricultural area within our official plan, and agriculture, general agriculture within the zoning bylaw. So again, the Planning Act and the PPS both allow for second dwelling units and accessory structures. This has been pushed through Bill 108, now is trying to increase our housing supply and allowing for additional units that may not have been permitted in the past. So of course we have not gone through our official plan review yet to update these policies, nor have we updated them in our zoning bylaws of yet. So that's sort of where we landed on the 3-year temporary zoning, which would allow staff and allow the township an opportunity to update their policies to get them in conformity with the PPS and the Planning Act. Whereas the alternative for Angela was an official plan amendment and a full zoning bylaw amendment, which is onerous, costly. So this was kind of the best way to go. Once the zoning the temporary use expires in 3 years, we will have the proper policies in place. So as of right, she'll be permitted the second dwelling, and she will not need to come back for anything more at that time. So the application was circulated as per requirements. The chief building official indicated that a change in major occupancy will require a qualified person to review performance level of the existing building and provide remedial repairs or changes required to meet the new residential standards Group C occupancy. So this will be done at time of building permit. So that's not something that we need to worry about as part of this application. The county engineer indicated no concerns, neither did the drainage superintendent or the conservation authority, and we have not received anything from the public. So that being said, my recommendation for this application is approval, and further that council proceed with the first, second, and third reading of the implementing bylaw this evening, which has been drafted for your consideration.
Thank you, Aaron. Is there anything you'd like to add at all?
No, I submitted a written submission, and so I'll open myself up for questions and rest on my submission and Aaron's statements and leave it in your hands.
Excellent. Before we go to council, is there anyone in the gallery wishing to speak to this application? Seeing none, any questions or comments from council? No. No comments are mostly a positive one. So the way this works is we have the 2 applications. So once we close the public meeting, then we'll go and council will make the motion for approval. So we're going to go into the next zoning bylaw amendment. So I would say sit tight until that motion's done, just to be reassured that it's approved.
Okay. I would only note, I don't know, a clerical error just on this document here. It stipulates 4133, it's 4223. I think on all of the other correspondence I've seen 4223. It's just on the sign-in sheet.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you. And then next is the zoning bylaw amendment application Z 13 2019 for 5333 Calvert Drive, which is for Patrick and Stephanie Sanders. And I'll, do you want to come up here or do you want to throw you down? Okay.
So we're looking for, Stephanie Sanders. I didn't see them here. So we'll go ahead, Erin.
Thank you. So the last application we have before council this evening is a rezoning for surplus farm dwelling consent. So again, we're looking for the lot to be severed from the general agriculture to a site-specific surplus dwelling zone in order to recognize the residential use of the lands. We're also proposing to amend the zoning of the lot to be retained from general agriculture to agriculture only to prohibit any future dwellings on the property. The subject property is located within agricultural designation and within the general agricultural zone. So this is slightly different than the typical one that we do. We have the provisions within our zoning bylaw that stipulates a maximum size for accessory structures on these surplus dwelling properties. So all we need to do this evening is propose a site-specific surplus dwelling zone to recognize the oversized nature of one of the accessory structures. So I have reflected that in my draft bylaw this evening for your consideration. I believe that both of these rezonings are appropriate. We did not receive any comments from the public. The Conservation Authority was the only one to comment. They have no issues. So my recommendation for this application is approval, and that council proceed with the first, second, and third reading of the bylaw. First and second reading of the bylaw, with the third to be read once a deposited reference plan has been received by the township.
And do we have any other comments from the public? From council?
Just one question, so it was just because the one drive shed was too, basically bigger than a, yeah, so it's not gonna be. Oh, that's good.
Okay. So, yeah, we'll vacate the chair and the mayor can come back.
Okay, so we'll need a motion now to resolve at the public meeting to hear zoning bylaw amendment Z 12 2019 and Z 13 2019 be closed at 7:20 p.m. Councilor McKinnon and Deputy Hendricks. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, so the first recommendation is in regards to zoning bylaw amendment Z 12 2019 for 4142. We have to fix the motion to 4233.
4223.
Okay, Egremont Drive. Yeah. Okay, move on seconder for that for approval. Okay, Councilor McKinnon and Councilor Brody. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. And the next one I'll have you.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll just sit here.
All in favor of Z 13209?
I'll move that.
Or, yes. Seconded by Mike. All in favor? Okay, that's carried.
All right. Perfect. You're also, you can stick around if you want, but if you have something else better to do,
I
then.
actually have a flight to catch, so I'm going to split.
Okay. Alrighty, so our next item is the special policy area review, and I'll let Aaron go through the report.
So I will be brief this evening. I'm not going to go through my report this evening. It's for information purposes, for you to read through, to digest over the Christmas break. And once we come back in January, the January 20th meeting, or whenever council decides to bring it back, we'll have
so the next steps, so council can receive the report tonight, and the next step is council will have to make a decision on a open meeting date in January for when they will discuss and review and this report. And you can do it at the January 28th meeting, or if you want to set a separate meeting for that. Based on our past meetings with special policy review, we've had a good crowd turnout, so I would recommend that we choose another location. After the open meeting is scheduled, council will make the next steps in making a public meeting for the draft OPA and zoning bylaw. Will come back whenever council decides on that date, to keep in line with the timeline that Aaron submitted back in October.
Is there any questions at all for Aaron on the information report so far? And if not, there was a lot of information there, so we can, and as you said, we'll be discussing it in the new year, so.
I'll move we receive the report.
And a seconder, Governor Hendricks. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. And when are we looking at for the other meeting? You're thinking in January?
Yeah, January, in order to stay with the timeline that Erin submitted back in October in her report.
What about January 15th? That's a Wednesday.
Sue, Councillor Clark, is away until the 15th. So
Until the 15th? What about the 16th then? Oh. You and I.
yes, absolutely.
You might be. Yeah, you might not be here either. And Ogra is when? The 27th?
18th to the 21st.
Roma.
Roma.
Roma's the 20th, yeah, the 19th to the 21st, right?
Yeah.
And what about the Wednesday of that week? The week of the 27th?
The 29th?
Mm-hmm.
I would like the 29th.
You can make it?
It's a Wednesday?
Yeah. And do we know anything from Sue?
We better check with Sue.
She sent an email. She is available on the 29th. She sent me the dates. If she's not available on the 29th, is not one of them.
Okay, so the 20th, and are we thinking evening would probably be best for most people?
Yeah.
So 7? And at the fire hall, is the fire hall available? Do we know with certain dates?
I think it's nice to have the fire hall so that people with accessibility problems, it's an easier enter and get out of.
With the alternate as being downstairs if for some reason we're not able to be in there. Okay, so Councilor McKinnon, you're moving that?
Yes.
Okay, seconded by Councilor Brody. And that's to resolve that council schedule a public meeting to be held on January 29th at 7 p.m. located at the Kerwood Fire Hall in order to discuss the special policy area review recommendations overview planning report as presented by Planner Aaron Besh. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. That's everything for Aaron. Did you have anything else you wanted to add? No? Perfect. Alrighty, so we're not time yet for the 7:40 delegation, so we're going to move into our staff reports. And our first one is from our Public Works Manager, Coulter.
Thank you, Mayor Smith. Recent changes were made to the provincial minimum maintenance standards for municipal highways. Changes to the MMS regulation came in effect May 3rd, 2018. The MMS regulation is designed to provide municipalities with a due diligence defense in the event of a vehicular accident, slip, trips, and falls, or other incidents The standards outlined in the MMS regulation are mandatory. As such, the township does need to explicitly follow the MMS regulation. If the township cannot meet the MMS regulation as set out, it can still use section 44(1) of the Municipal Act to demonstrate that the service provided was reasonable in the circumstances for both weather and road conditions. In short, the township can set its own winter maintenance standards based on its needs and resources. Without a doubt, the township has an obligation to maintain its roads, its road network at an appropriate safe level of service. To achieve this, the township utilizes the MMS regulation as framework and a benchmark for determining the township's maintenance standards and to ensure that appropriate winter maintenance practices are developed and implemented to meet the common law test of reasonableness. When a municipality is not resourced or able to adopt the MMS regulation as written, the municipality can set a municipal specific prescribed level of service or close the highway sidewalk under section 16.8 of the MMS. In the MMS, sidewalk is defined as the part of the highway specifically set aside or commonly understood to be for pedestrian use, typically consisting of a paved surface, but does not include crosswalks, medians, boulevards, shoulders, or any part of the sidewalk where cleared snow has been deposited. A municipality also has the option under section 16.9 of the MMS to declare a significant weather event, which if declared will allow township staff to delay maintenance to roadway and sidewalks. The township's process is to start the response clock once Public Works staff has determined that the snow accumulation on the roadway sidewalk is equal to or greater than the depth set out in bylaw number 3 of 2019, which is attached. Council passed a bylaw to adopt MMS for municipal highways throughout the township January 2019, bylaw number 3 of 2019, to reflect the May 3rd, 2018 changes. The level of service is determined by the classification of roadway. This includes sidewalks. For example, if a township roadway is classified as number 4 and there's a sidewalk, the township has an obligation to provide winter maintenance to the sidewalk in the same manner as the roadway as outlined for a class 4 under the MMS. The 2018 amendments to the MMS regulation include number 1, the introduction of winter maintenance standards including patrol obligations for sidewalks, section 16.7. Number 2, the ability for municipalities to declare a significant weather event with implications for winter maintenance on roadways and sidewalks for the duration of the event, section 16.9. Number 3, inspection standards for areas adjacent to sidewalks. Number 4, sidewalk surface discontinuities. Number 5, pothole repairs. And number 6, road classification system. As noted at the last council meeting, Clerk Turk and myself attended a risk and liability workshop hosted by Frank Talent Company, which is also the township's insurer. Attached is facts from the workshop for council review, as this may answer some of council's questions. It should be noted that compliance with the MMS regulation is not an absolute defense against litigation or liability, but instead shows due diligence and proactive consideration for winter maintenance challenges. There is marginal enhanced risk associated with not fully complying with the MMS regulation, but in the end is a balance between the level of risk and increased costs. Winter maintenance standard sidewalks. The township's practice is to clear priority road sidewalks through the township. All secondary sidewalks shall be signed as closed, no winter maintenance. Winter sidewalk maintenance levels of service are as follows. Priority routes following a winter storm event, plow equipment will be dispatched to priority routes upon the accumulation of 5 centimeters of new snow. Plowing operations will remove snow down to a smooth snowpack surface. Priority sidewalks will be cleared within 16 hours of being dispatched. Sand and salt mix will be added at the same time to increase traction for pedestrians on icy, slippery areas. The Public Works Manager will undertake daily patrol to monitor sidewalk conditions. Township staff will monitor the contractor's activities and conduct random inspections. Apply sand and salt mix within 16 hours to increase traction for pedestrians as the operator becomes aware of slippery conditions during non-snow events. This is the same level of service as a Class 4 road. Gerwood Road, where the sidewalks are located, is a Class 4. Winter maintenance will begin on November 1st in any year to April 15th in the following year. Sidewalks not included in the defined area shall not be maintained from November 1st in any year to April 15th in the following year and shall be considered closed during this period. Financial impact, as outlined in the December 2nd, 2019 Kerwood Sidewalk Snow Removal Report, done right landscaping costs would be $200 per time with a maximum of $4,000. The cost to have the sidewalk maintained will be included in the winter maintenance portion of the budget. There are minimal costs associated with closure of the sidewalk under the MMS. Staff follows the process as outlined in the Township's Notice Bylaw number 48 of 2018 when providing notice to the public. Costs incurred would be barricades if council and staff deem necessary, signage and advertisement in local newspaper, as well as staff time. Recommendation, resolve that council approve the seasonal closure of sidewalks, minimum maintenance standards report as presented by the Public Works Manager, and resolve that council approve the draft bylaw relating to seasonal closure of sidewalks and Adelaide Metcalfe as drafted by the clerk in collaboration with the Public Works Manager.
Thank you, Coulter. Is there any questions at all for Coulter at all? Okay, Councilor McKinnon?
Just one through you, Mayor Smith, to Coulter. On the questions and answers, what's an ADP?
An ADP. Where did you find that?
It's under the your staff report for the questions and answers.
From Clinton
right
House.
here. Right here. Where?
An ADT?
Yeah. How frequently should ADT be determined?
I can look into that one.
I wish they would use
No, I know.
acronyms unless they point them out in the document someplace, and I couldn't see where it was pointed out in either the report, the bylaw, or the frequent questions and answers, so
Yeah, this is the one. I'll look into that.
it was a really thorough report.
Yeah.
So I don't have any questions on the report or the draft bylaw. That was the only question I had.
If there's no other questions, we have the two recommendations. The first one is to approve the report.
So,
Councilor McKinnon and Councilor Brody. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. And the second one is to approve the draft bylaw. Councilor McKinnon and Deputy Mayor Hendricks. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Okay, is there any questions at all for Coulter for the Public Works Department? Okay, we're going to move into our next staff report, and that's our clerks. Jennifer.
Thank you, Mayor Smith. So this is my report that ends November 30th, and it's for the bylaw enforcement. As you can see, there's 8 occurrences that are currently open or under investigation. Under other information, the summary pertaining to 27987 Kerwood Road. Following the complaint that was received October 3rd, the bylaw enforcement officer investigated the validity of the complaint October 8th, and pictures were submitted to myself for the file. I sent a letter, first notice by mail, to the property owner October 10th with a deadline of November 10th as per the bylaw. The bylaw enforcement officer performed a follow inspection with pictures November 13th and submitted to myself for file. I sent another letter, a second notice by registered mail, November 15th with a deadline of December 2nd. December 5th, registered mail was not picked up by the property owner, therefore it was sent back to the township. Bylaw enforcement officer performed another follow-up inspection on December 3rd and provided information to the clerk. I sent a final notice by registered mail and hand-delivered it December 5th to the property owner. The bylaw enforcement officer was successful in hand-delivering the third and final notice to the property owner after a third attempt. I received a phone call from the property owner on Friday, December 6th requesting extension, and the property owner scheduled his delegation tonight to request the extension, and council has granted an extension till February 29th. I'd also like to bring to council's attention that in the tidy yard bylaw, which is bylaw 40 of 2019, there's no fine in there to deal with section 411, which deals with motor vehicles in the yards. So I'm looking for direction from council to impose a fine to property owners for motor vehicles that are inoperative, derelict, abandoned, etc., as outlined in the bylaw. And I'm looking for council to recommend a $300 fine be imposed and added to Schedule D of the bylaw. So I have two recommendations tonight for council. One is that council receive the report for period ending November 30th. And the second recommendation is that council approve the amendment to impose a fine of $300 to be added to Schedule D of the tidy yard bylaw number 40 of 2019.
Thank you, Jennifer. Is there any questions or comments at all? Councilor McKinnon?
Through you, Mayor Curtis, to Jennifer. So we've already sent in the schedule to the courts.
Yep.
And we'll have to submit this with the additional $300.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other questions at all?
I'll move the recommendation.
Okay, so we'll do with the first one, which is the to receive the report. So that's moved by Councilor McKinnon, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hendricks. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. And then the second one is to resolve that council approve the amendment to impose a $300 fine to be added to Schedule D, the fee schedule, to bylaw number 40 of 2019 pertaining to a section 4.11 yards motor vehicles of the bylaw.
So moved.
Moved by Councilor McKinnon, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hendricks. And just before I call the question, Jennifer, with that $300 fine, if approved tonight, does that take effect for the previous complaints that were already filed prior to that date?
No,
Or-
it does not, because
So
I'll
it's
have to resubmit to the POA, the Ministry of Attorney General, and they will have to approve the fine schedule all over again.
Okay, so anything going forward
Correct.
would be under that,
Yep.
but before that, okay.
Correct.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. Okay, thank you, Jennifer, and we're almost at the 7:40 time, so I think we will jump into our delegation, where we'll get into the our CAO's report. So we have, just gonna double check here, okay. We have Fred Cahill and Pam McLean here for the delegation in regards to 25700 Kerwood Road. And I believe council has all received this package. We got that in an email, I believe, earlier today. I'm here as well. I personally did not have time to read through it, so I'm not sure if anybody else had time. So just want to give you the heads up for that.
I'm just gonna read what I prepared, that's okay.
Sounds good.
It's probably the best thing to do. So, good evening, Mayor Smith and
Welcome.
councillors. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to address you folks once again. We'd just like to reiterate some of our concerns regarding special policy area 4A, so that as you folks are reflecting about the recommendations over the holidays, that we are at the forefront of your thoughts. And what I'm going to read to you is, I've actually read the recommendations that are posted online on tonight's agenda, so my preparation is in response to that. So, clearly and without a shadow of a doubt, the residents that we represent would fully support the second option that has been presented regarding the rezoning of 25700 Kerwood Road, which was rezoning it to agricultural. As you know, the township has received over 300 very passionate, comprehensive, and detailed letters from households, the majority of which bear more than one signature, and all are in opposition to the proposals of a biosolids storage facility at 25700 Kerwood Road. The residents of Adelaide Metcalfe remain united in opposition to this proposal. We continue to be of the opinion that it is not a suitable nor appropriate use of the property moving forward into 2020, and returning this parcel of land to agricultural zoning would retain the rural and the agricultural integrity of our community. However, to look at the first option, which was to retain the zoning as it is, in the summary review of last month, it stated that the landowners purchased the property with the intent of developing the property for industrial uses. All of the residents that surround 25700 Kerwood Road purchased their properties a very long time ago with their own personal development intentions, whether it be building a new house or expanding an existing farm operation. And they were purchased long before the 2017 sale of this property. Should this proposal go through, these future plans for property development are thwarted, as no one wants to build and live in such proximity to a noxious industry that would clearly impact everyone's quality of life.
This industry would have a significant impact on existing properties, homes, businesses, and in my daughter's words, it is unbelievable that one person's business proposal could be considered at everyone else's expense and so negatively impact so many residents of this community. Business proposals and businesses come and go each and every day. Some make sense and others do not. As a community that is in opposition to this development, this is definitely one that should go by the wayside as an unsuitable, an unwelcome, and an inappropriate addition to our community. In fact, its presence is not even a solution to any problem that our community has regarding waste management. We would become a fecal dumping ground for not only another community, but indeed another country. Our own existing official plan of 2011 clearly states on page 14 under economic development that the township will encourage the location of light industrial uses, which are not noxious industries, that can be located without adverse impact to existing development, that can be located without adverse impact to the natural environment, and where there is adequate separation between industrial and non-industrial land uses. We don't feel that this proposed industry is light by any means. It is definitely noxious, and by definition, noxious meaning any industry that due to the production of noxious substances, which are gases, smells, noises, dust, or smoke, are excluded from conventional industrial zones. This proposed industry is impacting on existing homes and businesses, and it will potentially adversely impact the natural environment. As well, it is not adequately separated from existing dwellings on all three sides. So based on these criteria and these alone, how can we possibly be considering this proposal as a good fit for our community? I'd also like to comment on a statement in the November review that said the November summary that said that the landowners wish to advise that relevant studies will be included in the site plan. There's a lengthy list of studies in our own official plan, but we feel that for studies to be unbiased, the municipalities should be the ones that are initiating them with the appropriate groups. And first and foremost, any studies need to be long-term and unbiased. But having said that, unfortunately, assessments and studies of the long-term impacts of the substances that are potentially contained within this product, they are not even available. Nor is testing able to keep up with the different emerging substances of concern that are in this product. And what are some of these substances? Bacteria that cause cholera and salmonella, viruses such as meningitis and polio, protozoa such as toxoplasmosis, and parasites such as human roundworms and hookworms, as well as all the toxic heavy metals. An article in the Canadian Municipal Water Consortium warns that the current chemical-by-chemical approach to conducting risk assessments on these substances does not and cannot fully address the ultimate goal of evaluating the effects on human and or environmental health, nor can they predict how these substances will interact. The township needs to err on the side of caution and be extremely concerned with the potential toxicity of this product. This product is banned, it is barred, and there are moratoriums on it throughout the world. Why would we consider for 1 second wading into such an unknown? And just as an aside, I would like to know how Township Council would be prepared to ensure the potability of my water and that of surrounding residents against potential contamination by these toxins. I could go on and on, as you know, but there are over 300 letters in your possession that address concerns that I've just mentioned, as well as many other concerns. 30 years ago, when this property was initially and randomly zoned industrial, no one could have or would have foreseen its potential use as a biosolid storage facility. The unknowns simply make this proposal far too risky. Now in 2020, with the environment in every conversation and the push to maintain rural agricultural prime land, there is absolutely no reason whatsoever to build a toxic waste facility at this location. So we once again urge Council to say no to this proposal when the time comes. citing any or all of the reasons that the residents of this community have brought to your attention. We urge you to do whatever is necessary regarding bylaws or zoning to prevent this unwelcome, this unsuitable, and this inappropriate potential addition to our community. You know that your decision will be the community's legacy. It will be one that will have long-term impacts, either positively or negatively, on the health, the well-being, and the welfare of our community. Do not let a biosolids storage facility be our township's legacy. Thank you.
Very good. That was a mouthful.
It's wonderful, and I'll be happy to email it to you, which I will do.
That'd be perfect. And Brad, did you have something to add as well?
You know, I'm just gonna add a few things, but I'm not gonna talk very long, because just, you guys put up with us pretty well. First of all, I wanna thank Jennifer and the office staff for their patience this summer with all the letters and the different things that go through. You guys have been awesome, and I thank you for all that. Council, I thank the opportunity to talk to you tonight. I think that's important in different things too. But I'm gonna start with this particular line. I respectfully remind you of your vision of this community when you chose to run for office here. And I don't think that vision of Adelaide Metcalfe Township has a biosolids storage facility in your focus, in your vision. It just doesn't seem to fit here. And I just want to remind you of that. And we all get on council for different reasons, but I don't think that was anybody's vision. It wasn't our vision when we set it up 30 years ago when we did our official plan. I put together a package. We've actually done some research for you. We've got some researchers on our committee here that we didn't give it all because you'd be buried in stuff, but we picked out what was pertinent. And in that particular package, you're going to find a few things. A couple of words of note. There's going to be something called a PFAS. Those are industrial and manufacturing runoff, and they're found in the biosolids. There's also another particular substance, and they call it forever chemicals. I'm not sure if you're familiar with what a forever chemical is, but not unlike DDT, that has a half-life of 50 years, these chemicals get into the ground and they never leave. They also get into the plants. They're showing up even in the people. I know DDT actually showing up in tobacco, and it's still, after 50 years of banning it, it's still showing up. So in summary of all the research that is in front of you, we really haven't found anything positive about this particular substance. The only thing positive would be the price. It's cheap, and that's probably why people use it. If it wasn't cheap, we wouldn't be using it. Honestly, whole countries have banned it. Germany, Switzerland, a lot of the United States, some of the states, Michigan, Wisconsin, Connecticut, Maine, they've all banned it. And they're really, and even the banks today are asking if biosolids were spread on some of the farms. If they're going to lend money for farms, they want to make sure that it's not toxic. All right? It's just not good. I'm going to finish with this little story. When we asked for the letters of concern from members of the municipality, we got a lot of letters. This one particular letter was addressed to me personally. You didn't get a copy of it. But this particular individual owns a business in our township, surrounded by farmland. The Burmas have rented all the farmland around them. They pay a premium of $50 over the market value or the average price for renting land. And they just load it up. And that's how they got rid of, perhaps that's how they got rid of the pile, but I know they loaded up. Anyways, I got thinking about this particular deal, and I remember you mentioning to me that the Burmas were in that site where the biosolid storage site is proposed to be. They were in there for over a month spreading it. A month spreading sludge. So we have to test our water quarterly. Every 3 months we have to send a water sample in to an official lab to get it tested. Now, if we get one E. coli, the bells go off, the red flags go up, we have to flush our system, retest, it just gets a little bizarre. So I thought, I'm gonna go down there, and I'm gonna try and get a sample of the water that's running out of that particular farm into the ditch. They've dug 6 furrows to remove the surface water, so it's all running into the ditch. I pulled my sample out of the ditch, all right? And I called the folks and I asked them, what's the best thing to test for? He said, Fred, we're gonna test for E. coli. So I sent the sample in. The next day I got the results. And I couldn't believe the results that I got. It was a bottle this big. Like I said, if I get one E. coli, one, it's just gets crazy. 35,000 E. coli were in that sample. That one little sample. I couldn't believe it. So I called her up just to make sure it wasn't 350, it wasn't a mistake here, 350, 3,500, no. 35,000 E. coli in that one particular sample. It was running into the ditch, it was running into the river. She said, Fred, I've tested raw sewage that tested better than this. So that's included in your package also, the results from that. I'm just gonna leave it at that. That's it for me.
Okay, thank you, Fred. Is there any questions at all from members of council for either Pam or Fred at all? No. I just want to thank you so much for your time and obviously very dedicated to this topic. And thank you for coming out this evening and presenting your findings. And if you could, send that letter that you read there. That'd be perfect for Jennifer's files and then everybody else's. So thank you so much.
Can I ask a couple of quick questions?
Sure.
The deadline for the bylaw is
May.
May 21st, somewhere in that range?
I'm thinking it was earlier than that, but you could be right.
Somewhere in that range, okay. And our next meeting is January the 29th
at the fire hall.
at the fire hall.
It'll likely be posted on the
so it'll be all-
website.
When will we
is
be
that
making
right,
our
the May
decision?
date? Just a second.
Sorry?
Is the May date, is that right for the bylaw?
I think so. It would have been before I started at Middlesex, but I think it's in around that time.
May, okay.
One
Just so you know,
calendar year.
Erin is listening. She, from the other room. She's not feeling well tonight, so that's why she stepped out. She is listening. She didn't take off before you guys started talking. Just let you know. She's writing stuff down. So
Under your list.
so May is the right date. Okay. Yeah.
When will we be making our decision as a council as to whether it's going to be door number 1 or door number 2 here?
Great question.
Good question.
That's a good question. Jennifer, what's the schedule of?
We're going to make a decision sooner than later. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
So on January the 29th, there'll be an open meeting for council to review the report presented by Erin. What council will do is review the report and make decisions on what the next process is, which would be if there's any amendments to an official plan and the zoning bylaw. Those amendments will be put together, and that's when the circulation will go out, and there will be another public meeting based on the actual amendment to the official plan and the zoning bylaw. And that will be another public meeting where people are allowed to attend and comment on the proposed amendments.
And then further to that, the official plan that goes to council.
Correct. And then council will take those comments from that public meeting, finally decide how the official plan and the zoning bylaw are going to be structured, what's going to be included, and then make the approvals at a next regular meeting after that. And then it'll be circulated, official plan amendments are required to be circulated to the county for approval.
I guess my concern and the concern of our committee here is, are we going to have enough time before this deadline, this bylaw, interim bylaw, to do what actually needs to be done? If by chance we decide that we don't want this biosolids storage facility there, will we have enough time to prepare for the, there's going to be some backlash and we can get prepared for and do our research as to, we got to defend it, right? If we say no, we gotta come up with some ammunition here, because they're gonna bring in some people that we have to educate as to what we'll be out of time. I mean, there's a process to everything. Maybe I may be out of whack here as to the process, but I'm trying to piece it all together. We don't, and I speak for my friends here, we don't wanna be reacting, we wanna be proactive to what's gonna happen here, so that we have to come up against these guys, so we wanna make sure we're prepared. That being said, feel free to spend any taxpayer dollars that will go towards your decision if you need to back it up, because there's a lot of people out here that have your support. We're behind you 100%, we just say no.
And I
Big
think,
time.
yeah, I think the timeline, and I think Aaron will agree that we're on the right timeline right now. Is the meeting, you know, in the schedule is to be in January, so we're on track for having everything ready for decision from council as to what we're going to be doing with our initial plan and the zoning bylaw. So I think everything's in order. Everybody seems to be shaking their head yes. So yeah.
Okay. Hey, thanks for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening.
No, I got lots of them. I just hear
Alrighty, so we're going to continue on our agenda. So we just have a number of reports from our CAO for our closed session. So we'll continue on with our staff reports.
Thanks.
We'll drive the lines. Thank you.
Pretty quick, Okay, so the first report is the invoice payment approval for the period November 28, 2019 to December 11, 2019 in the amount of $122,107.55.
Is there any questions on the accounts at all?
That's fun telling your dad.
Dr. Hendricks, any questions?
Yeah, under fire, the PPV fan,
What page is that?
that's on page 2 of 7.
Derek Schneider, please.
Yeah, Derek.
More than $5,297.
What page are we on?
On page 2.
Page 2 of 7, under the fire, it's the last item under fire.
Oh, USTI Canada? No,
Dark side.
Dark fire.
Yeah, so it is for a van,
A fan?
a 20-inch van.
Like for the
It's
building?
been approved through it's likely for their, a piece of equipment. It's for equipment, it's not actually for,
Oh, okay, it's for
personal
using
protective
out of
equipment.
fire
It's for
somewhere.
using out of fire, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The other question I had was under roads. Acorn Tree Service, it's on page 4, for the Melwood roadside. Was that something that was budgeted, or was that like an emergency cleanup?
Through Mayor's funds. That was before my time. That was Jeff Hill set that up. He did get a quote from them and went forward with that. I don't know
Melwood. No, that's all I have.
Is there any other questions at all? So we have a motion to allow the council to receive the invoice payment approval for November 28th to December 11th, 2019 as presented by the CAO treasurer. Deputy Hendricks and Councilor Brody, all those in favor? Opposed, that's carried. And then the motion to resolve to that council approve the account listings for November 28th to December 11th, 2019 in the amount of $122,107.55 as presented. Councilor McKinnon and Councilor Brody, all those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried.
The next report is in regards to invoice payment approval for the year end. We generally provide council lists for approval at the regular council meetings. There is a need to provide for payment of invoices between the last meeting in December, which is tonight, and before the first meeting in January. It is an extensive period this time, January 28th. So staff is requesting council provide approval to generate payment of invoices during that period, which are part of the 2019 budget, as well as routine time-sensitive payments. The checks will require the mayor or deputy mayor to sign. The accounts and invoices to be paid during the period are either part of the budget for 2019 or require payment to avoid incurring late payment fees. And the recommendation is that council authorize the continuation of payments and invoices that were approved in the budget or are time sensitive prior to the next regular council meeting.
Okay, mover and seconder to receive the report. Councilor McKinnon and Deputy Hendricks, all those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. And then we have a mover and seconder to resolve that council authorize the continuation of payments of the accounts and invoices that are approved in the 2019 budget or are time sensitive prior to the next regular meeting. Councilor Brody and Councilor McKinnon, all those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried.
My next report is in regards to a procurement policy. Section 270 of the Municipal Act instructs that a municipality shall adopt and maintain a policy with respect to its procurement of goods and services. The current procurement policy was approved by council in 2004. There has been no review of the policy since its implementation. There is no financial impact of introducing a new procurement policy. A new policy will be reflective of purchasing best practices that in turn will ensure the most effective use of township funds throughout the organization. All activities around the purchase of goods and services using public funds should be fair and transparent, in addition to acquiring the best value for money towards public expenditures. So the recommendations are that you accept the report as presented and that you accept the draft procurement policy for review to be discussed at the next regular council meeting. It is a fairly lengthy document and there is a significant amount of changes from our previous policy.
Mover and seconder to receive the report. Okay, Deputy Hendricks and Councilor Brody, all those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. And then is there any questions or comments on the draft policy right now?
Or is that for next?
Yes, it is, but I just didn't know if there's anything right now. Yeah.
Then I have one on page 7 of 12, and it's the methods of negotiation. The last sentence was the information pertinent to and the results of all such negotiations shall be reported to the chief administrator officer and shall at his or her discretion be reported to council. And I just thought it should be reported to council, not at their discretion.
At his or her direction, not discretion.
Well, there I had my point over top of that, so.
Yes, there's no discretion. It's it will depend whether it's something that goes through myself as the CEO treasurer or it will go through the department manager.
Thank you.
Alright, so this will be on our next agenda for discussion. If we move make this motion.
Oh,
Seconder? Yeah.
Also, I had another point.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. I figured best to have it now instead of waiting a month.
Through you, Smith, to Kathy again. Under page 11 of 12, the bid dispute resolution.
Yes.
And under B, it says, or under A, I'm sorry, a meeting between the bidder and the treasurer. And B is if A does not lead to a resolution between the bidder and the township, the bidder may appeal the decision to the CAO. And in our case, it's the same person. Should we not reflect that it's the CAO treasurer rather than have it treasurer and then CAO under A and B?
What we've been trying to do through our policies is remove the fact that it could be one person or two persons, so that these are the persons it would go to. So in case those jobs were split up going forward, there's no need to go back and revise the whole policy. So the first step is to talk to the treasurer, which in this case, in our case, it would be the treasurer and the CAO. But if that ever changes going forward, then there's the secondary already implemented,
That
which
makes
would
sense.
mean that, of course, if there's no resolution, then it goes right to council.
Yeah, thank you.
So it's just to make it so that it's a policy that doesn't need to be revised if there's staff changes or there's position title changes. We're trying to make them easier to deal with going forward.
That makes sense, thanks, Kathy.
And I brought that to Kathy's attention a while ago because our problem was we're redoing all these policies because it was before it was the CAO clerk,
Yeah.
and then now it's the CAO treasurer. So we were updating policies just for the sake of changing the titles. And realistically, we're best just to say who you're meeting with in that certain position.
That makes sense
Yeah.
when I think of it that way. Thank you.
Okay, so we need a motion to resolve that council accept the draft procurement policy for review to be discussed at the next regular council meeting. Councilor Brody and Deputy Mayor Hendricks, all those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried.
My next report is the strategic plan 2019 update. Council provided direction on the strategic plan direction for 2018 to 2022. Attached is the draft strategic plan version 4, December 2019 for council review. As per previous review, the priority setting framework was not adjusted from the 2015 strategic plan. The priority task matrix has been updated based on council's direction. There's no financial impact to approving the strategic plan. Staff will use the tasks identified for guidance as guidance for budget preparation, and the draft plan has been attached, and it's recommended that council receive the report on the strategic plan update, and that if council sees fit, they approve the strategic plan as presented.
Okay, is there any questions at all? Councilor McKinnon?
Through you, Mayor Curtis, to Kathy, under section 1, growing our economy through a diversified economic development plan. The first point is to complete and fully implement a marketing and branding strategy that actively supports and advances the township's economic development plan. And I guess this is what we're heading for, but I was wondering when the direction, like maybe I missed that. So you're just assuming this is what we should do, and I think we should have an economic plan committee to look at economic development and how we might assist our ratepayers in growth. But I wondered if that should be point 1 or if it should come back under point 1.5, just switch them around.
1.1 is exactly as it was in the previous one.
Okay, I didn't see that in 1.1. Okay, then to update the official plan to maximize growth, and somewhere along here we had it about the hub. Well, that's under our next bullet. Given the public meeting that we had at Kerwood, are we still continuing to look at Kerwood becoming the hub?
If I may, so this was developed back in May of 2019. So what we will do is reflect on it once you get your annual report and how we've done and what you've met. So it's just it's just a guide to give you what you've developed, what you've met, what you need to still finish achieving. So it's your plan going forward. So some of it in 2019 is there and has been discussed, and will no longer, when you do your next one, then it's not a revolving, it's kind of giving you your guideline for going forward.
I was getting kind of mixed up on all this. I was thinking, well, that the public meeting said no to the hub, so, okay. Then Okay. A lot of my questions are on the community of Adelaide Metcalfe, to build on the community. Where are we? And does the village of Adelaide qualify? Like, are you looking at that as well as Kerwood? It says the hamlet areas, and those are the only three hamlets. We have the Napier, Kerwood, and the village of Adelaide. So under the community funding and community improvement plans.
What page?
And, oh, I'm sorry, what page? Page 10. And it says one of the tools that can be utilized in this endeavor is the use of community improvement plans where there are specific initiatives and strategies available to support defined geographical-based community development. And I just wondered, would Adelaide, the village of Adelaide, and the village of Napier qualify under the community improvement plan?
If we have a community improvement plan, then that's where any area would qualify based on the community improvement plan, which we don't have in place at this point.
So again, it's similar to what we addressed with the hub. It's kind of ahead of itself.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions at all, Councilman McKinnon? No, I just wasn't sure, because I think like Councilor Brody was wanting to say something. No, okay.
Yeah, just when we get to the bottom on page 16 of 20, I'm just wondering, I just put a note, 2.2, is this still applicable given the public input?
Well, I do think we need to leave it in there because you never know. When an opportunity comes, there could be massive funding, we don't know. So I think it's just a line item, you might as well leave it in there instead of trying to cut it out. I mean, all of a sudden, somebody gives us a mountain of money and we didn't know it was coming, you might as well leave something like that in there, right? Just in case. I mean,
If I may, for the community hub of some sort, what could potentially happen is if the Optimist Club, say they needed some assistance with, if the hall was going to be renovated, maybe the township was going to partner with them to improve that as a hub area per se. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but now that we know what's happening, that we may be able to work with them to provide a hub of some sort.
I think when we look at this whole hub thing, I think we go back to revise the strat plan going forward. I think the wording around community hub, as in, right now it says pursue the opportunity to develop a potential community hub in Kerwood. We need to start talking about that Kerwood is the hub of the community and it's just more enhancing that community hub. I think that's kind of the wording that we should be using because that's really what we're going to be going towards anyways with the improvements to the park and with the Optimist Club purchasing the hall and everything else. So that's really where the community is going, and that's, in my mind, the hub is the meeting place and that type of thing. So, Deputy Mayor Hendricks, any questions on this?
No, I actually didn't get this. A lot of this wasn't included up on my app, on my iPad till later today, so I haven't really had a chance to go over a lot of it in detail.
Okay, so we have the two recommendations. The first one is to receive the report. Councilor McKinnon and Councilor Brody. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And the second one is to resolve that Council approve the Strategic Plan 2019 as presented. Deputy Hendricks and Councilor Brody. Okay. Any further discussion? Just make one comment. I think, as Kathy's alluded to, a lot of these things are changing, and I think realistically, probably at next, in 2020, we have to do the same process, and then do a review of what the goals are, and have it approved earlier on in the year, so then we can actually, by the time the end of 2020 happens, we can check off to say whether or not we actually got those done, instead of this year where we're looking at the timeline that's happening in 2020 or 2019. We have less than, I don't even know what today's date is, less than 15 days left in the year. We're not probably going to get those done, so it's hard. It seems odd for council to approve something now that's the year's practically over. So, alrighty. So,
So just remember, this will be our review, our annual review, right? Or
No, there'll be a review of what's been achieved, what needs to be achieved, what the status is, yes.
Okay.
but and then I assume we'll also be looking at changing, if we want to change any of these
Correct.
goals.
Yes.
What are they really called?
Strategies?
Yes.
Yes. And then that way they can be updated because,
Okay.
alrighty, so that was moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried.
The next report is in regards to strategic asset management plan. Under the Infrastructure for Jobs and Prosperity Act, the Government of Ontario enacted Ontario Regulation 588 of 17, related to municipal asset management planning for infrastructure. The regulation requires that all municipalities establish policies and plans related to various aspects of municipal infrastructure. All municipalities are required to adopt a strategic asset management policy which defines the vision, purposes, guiding principles, and goals for asset management practices. This policy has been drafted based on review of approved strategic asset management plans from other municipalities. A draft strategic asset management plan is attached for council approval. OREG 588-17 provided clear direction on the items to be included in the document. There is no financial impact to approving the strategic asset management plan. And the recommendation is that council receive the strategic asset management plan report and that they approve the strategic asset management plan as presented.
Deputy Hendricks?
So what we're approving though isn't the asset management plan, it's the policy to establish.
Correct.
Okay.
Which is essentially, if you looked at OREG 588-17, it's pretty much all the definitions and all of the policy statements, and come right from there, as well as the rules and the key principles.
Okay.
Okay, is there any other questions at all? So we have a motion for council to approve the report. Or no, we're doing approve the report. Councilor Brody and Deputy Mayor Hendricks. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. Sorry, I already crossed off a motion before we made it, so I was a little confused. Resolve that council approve the strategic asset management plan as presented.
Management plan policy.
Yes. We'll throw that word in there. And that's moved by Deputy Mayor Hendricks and Councilor Brody. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried.
My next report is a financial update, including payroll, the tax collection as of December the 16th, as well as the payroll for the month of November 2019 is attached.
Is there any questions at all on the financial report? Councilor Brody?
Just a question on the 2016 and over tax collection. Is that stuff moving along? Is there gonna be?
Yes. We have 5 more properties that are up for tax sale, tax registration, as well the ones that are currently under the process.
Okay. I don't know the full
Yes.
process. I just looking at 2016 and over, and it's getting to where it should move on, right? Yeah. Okay. Yep. Good.
What did we get here? 10,000 coming in.
Okay, so we need a motion to resolve that council receive the financial report including the November 2019 payrolls presented by the CAO Treasurer. And Councilor Brody and Deputy Mayor Hendricks. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. business. Is there anything from council? Councilor Brody?
I received an email today, I think it was just me, Betty, and Sue that actually got it, because this will be a conflict for me.
Okay.
I forwarded that right to Jennifer.
Okay, so basically, is Process holding this up? Did they hold this up themselves? How is,
I will
Is
have a report at the next council meeting, but I can
Okay.
tell you that it was held up on their end. I don't
Okay.
know if it was the planners or the applicants, but we only received the applications today for
okay,
the zoning bylaw and the official plan.
okay.
So, so I did send in, as discussed at the June 3rd meeting, I sent in what I was supposed to send in, but I'm also obligated under AGCO to send in a letter saying if they're compliant or not. And Marge was in here on Wednesday, and Aaron and I spoke with her on Wednesday. That's the
Okay.
first time we've seen her since June 3rd, when she was here in the audience. And we explained the process to her, and she was on her way to her planning consultants because she was under the impression that everything was going along fine. She asked me if I would send another letter to amend what I sent. I have no problem sending another letter, but I still have to say that they're not compliant, because my issue with the official plan and the zoning bylaw is, we know with a previous applicant, this council has to approve the official plan, and then it has to go up to the delegating authority, which is the county of Middlesex. So what happens if there's a deferral or a denial or an appeal? They're still not compliant.
Right.
So they have to follow the process just like everybody else does.
Right.
So she will be, Marge is asked to come to November, or January 28th council meeting, so she will be here to council.
And by that date, council should know more if things are,
So we've got their application. Erin hasn't seen what their proposal is, so she hasn't had a chance to review it. So in consultation with her, the earliest it'll come to council is February 18th. Those two applications. But in the meantime, we will provide council at the January 20th meeting an update with the timelines of who's talked to who, when, and what was discussed.
Okay.
Since May 21st, when the property owner came to council.
This was an email that was sent just to Mike and Mary, Mike, myself, and Sue. And it was from Sydenham Ridge Estates in regards to their liquor license, and I read it and forwarded it on to Jennifer.
And if I recall, at that meeting, when the property owner was at our council meeting, he stated that he was gonna come in, it was all gonna be straightened up by the end of this year.
Yes.
That was
Exactly.
my interpretation as well. However, the applicant, which would be Marge, was under a different interpretation that they only had to be in the process.
Yeah.
But the problem with just being in the process is when you do be compliant. And we do have other businesses within the municipality that are looking at going through the liquor license, and they're gonna have to go through the same process if they're not compliant with the zoning. And I'm not about to treat one differently than the others.
Okay. Okay, is there anything else at all for other business? Tony Hendricks?
Yeah,
Anything?
I'm just, I've been mulling over whether as a council we have enough information about the difference in our abilities to regulate agricultural versus industrial commercial zones. I don't know specifically what differences and what rules apply, and I don't know if it's something I just need to go read myself and find myself the information, or as council we would benefit from that information.
Normally, the planner sets out the definitions under our official plan and then defines them more under the zoning.
Yeah. So
The
it's
zoning's the tool of the official plan.
right. So it's somewhere in the mess of information I've got at my disposal.
Yeah, They should have light industrial defined and heavy industrial and say what each is. And it may be that this isn't addressed and will have to be. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Sure.
No, because I have a vague idea, but I wasn't able to find, quickly looking at anything I've got at home, so.
Yeah, if you look under your OP, and then it'll refer you to the section for your zoning.
I just have just two things I just wanted to highlight under business. The 2020 warden for Middlesex County is Kathy Burkhart-Chesson. She's the mayor of Luke Metcalfe. And she was acclaimed actually for the position, so that was kind of exciting. It made for a very quick inaugural meeting for Middlesex County. And the other thing is that the deal between Middlesex County and York Developments for 399 Rideout Street and 50 King has been completed, so all the conditions were waived today. And the dollar amount was disclosed, so the properties were sold to York Developments for $30 million. So that's, I'm sure you'll see it. Yeah, in the London Free Press and CTV, I'm sure it'll be all over the place. So, yeah.
Cheryl Miller will be upset.
Alrighty. So with that, we just have our closed session. So we need to have a motion to resolve that council hold a closed session meeting under section 292 of the Municipal Act, and that's 2B and F. And that's starting at 8:29. Councillor Brody and Councillor McKinnon. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, so we just entered our closed session at 9:26, and we just have the one item for the Verizon report, and that is to resolve that council direct staff to proceed as discussed in closed session. Okay, Councillor McKinnon and Councillor Brody, all those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Okay. Is there anything else from other business that we forgot and wants to say now? Seeing none.
It's been blocked. No? It's been tossed right out of my head if it was there.
Okay, so next on our agenda is the bylaws. And am I allowed to say the motion, even though bylaw number 79 is technically a conflict?
I would avoid from saying it only because you avoided saying the motion to approve set 13.
Okay.
And I have it pulled separately because we don't have her register plan on file. So
oh, sorry, I was just reading because I didn't realize it's separate. That's okay. Okay, so the first one, that bylaw, I'll motion number 27. I'll have Deputy Mayor Hendricks say. Jennifer will give you a ballot. It's the bottom one.
It's at the very bottom.
Okay, resolved that first and second readings be given to bylaw number 79 of 2019 zoning bylaw amendment Z13 Sanders, and that bylaws be signed by the deputy mayor and clerk.
Or deputy, sorry.
Deputy mayor and clerk. All in favor?
I knew what I meant to say. Alright, and the next one is resolved that all three readings be given to bylaws number 77 of 2019, the sidewalk closure, 78 of 2019, zoning bylaw amendment for Jansen's, and bylaw number 80 of 2019, confirm council proceedings, and that the bylaws be signed by the mayor and clerk, and the corporate seal be attached. Okay, Councillor McKinnon and Councillor Brody, all those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. And if there's nothing else, a motion to adjourn at 9, we'll say 30. Councillor Brody and Councillor McKinnon, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried.